Hello, my name is Janet Travers. I'm with the San Diego Writers and Editors Guild, and we are interviewing writers who are in the new anthology. Good luck with that, or good luck with that. And today we have Julie Anne Lyle, and she wrote a wonderful story that I just read today because I got an advance copy. It's my pleasure to meet you, Julie.
Nice to meet you.
Are you in San Diego?
I'm up in North County. I'm in Carlsbad.
Okay, good enough.
I'm
Close
still
to-
in the county.
Good. I'm just checking to see if you're a Padres fan.
I'm a complete Padres fan. Completely, yes.
Congratulations on getting in the anthology. Can you tell us the name of the short story that you have published?
Yes. It's called Four Words.
4 words. What inspired you to write this story?
I am a psychotherapist. I hear people's stories all day long for many decades. And repeatedly, what I was struck by in the theme of the anthology was when something seems like it's a good thing, and yet it flips on its side and is painful, unexpected, or disappointing. That happens a lot as people tell their stories, their challenge or conflict to therapy is that they think a relationship, a job, a geographic move, a purchase, a family is going to be rewarding or fulfilling. And instead, something happens and they're left with disappointment, again, sadness, a problem to solve.
Which is common in life, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It'd be great if it worked the other way. I was expecting bad luck and it turns out to be good.
The whole saying a silver lining. A lot of times in coping and dealing with emotional health, that's what we're digging for. Trauma, tragedy, unexpected loss. We have to move through the grief, but what can we pull from it?
Is this an amalgamation of two people that you wrote your main character? How did you develop the main character?
I really developed her more from a very commonplace work from home, came out of the COVID era of spending a lot of time at home, working from home, needing a break in some way. When things got lifted, people were out and about more. The story hops into that. But it's kind of amalgamation of a female stay-at-home character that decides to reward herself for some hard work. The setting is very much taken from Carlsbad Village. I don't know if you're familiar with it. That was completely the imagery I had when I imagined her. It was kind of a mix of Carmel and Monterey and the big coast to our small little village here.
Carlsbad, right?
Yeah.
I see you're writing a lot of different genres. So that's fiction, right?
Yes, that's
But
fiction.
you write children, poetry, and nonfiction.
Yeah. A lot of my early writing was really academic. I say early, meaning into college, grad school, doctoral. All of that was very academic, just research, dissertation, thesis. But the really early writing was fiction, a lot of poetry in my elementary, junior high, high school. That was more of my writing then. And then jumping into college, it kind of diminished and it shifted much more into the academic demands.
So I see the published work, Love Able, A Poetic Journey. Is the book of poetry?
Yes, I self-published on Amazon about 2 years ago, and it covers some of my earliest poems in high school and then shifts into an early divorce, a remarriage, having a child, and loss of a parent. So I just combined some of those seasons and made it into a being able to love every part of your journey.
That sounds uplifting. I like that. Do you enjoy being a member of SDWEG, which is San Diego Writers and Editors Guild?
I'm relatively new. I joined last
Oh,
June. So
really?
this is really new for me. And I have yet to attend an actual meeting, but I've done a few of the online offerings. The last one I did was about podcasts.
Good.
Yeah, it was very detailed. I took all sorts of notes and then I haven't done anything else with it because I got lost in the technical. But I'm loving it. I love the monthly updates. I like some of the links to writers' events. My primary draw is poetry. Even my kids' book that I continue to work on for a long time is a rhyming poetry book. I feel like I am always zooming in on the San Diego writers when they have in the segment for the news monthly report is like, oh, is there a poetry something? Is there a poetry contest? Is there a poetry meeting? So I'm already getting kind of my feet wet. I'm still working full time. I have a full time practice. So it doesn't leave a ton of time. I think there's a lunch meeting every month, and I keep thinking I need to open up my schedule so I could go to that.
I think Tuesdays with Marty Schroeder.
Yes.
They're fun. I mean, that's how I got involved. She's like powerful, very smart, and you gotta watch out for those people.
Compelling. Yes, I get it.
Do you remember the first story you ever wrote?
Yes. It was those composition books you'd get. They handed them out. It was in fifth grade. And it was about a sister and brother who went on this adventure and they got into this land of two mountains. I remember drawing the mountains and having to get a second composition book. It was about all their adventures. So I know I have it somewhere in my trunk. That was my very first short fantasy story.
It sounds like you wanted to be a writer for a long
Oh,
time.
yeah. I've always loved writing. And I think it translated well when I got out of high school. If there was a regret, I didn't pursue it more academically. I was very focused. I was voted most likely to become a child psychologist in high school. So I was stamped. I was just imprinted. I had to keep going. And I was that one listening to everybody, empathizing, I had great empathy. And it just seemed natural. I got into college and got a bachelor's in psych, bachelor's in child development. I think I took one creative writing class in my freshman year in college. And then I just really got kind of thrown into the tsunami of statistics and research and clinical study. And then child development because I was doing a lot with attachment theory in kids. So that launched me into my master's in counseling psychology and worked with kids in the early part of my career. A lot of at risk, really at risk kids. I didn't see a career or my professional identity, even in college, as a writer. It was something I thought of as like, I like it, but I didn't really pursue it professionally.
Speaking of silver linings, all that experience, if you were working with at-risk children, that has probably given you a lot to work off of.
Oh, yeah. And, I always was able to blend the writing. My very first grant, I ended up writing a lot of grants, federal and local grants for programs for kids. The very first one was to the March of Dimes, $5,000. And that was in the late 80s, early 90s. So I was like, whoa, $5,000. And it was a peer theater program called Theater for Life. It was skits about preventing health issues. So one of them was nicotine use, alcohol use during pregnancy, marijuana. So I wrote these scripted skits and plays with the kids. And then we would perform at high schools and junior highs. So it was called Theater for Life.
You were acting and you wrote it and acted in it?
I didn't act, the kids did. The
Oh,
kids acted it.
good.
So they were like, we had one skit where one was, he was actually nicotine. Hi, I'm nicotine. Call me Nick, and then he was interacting with like kids that were sitting there. Then someone else would come along and say, well, I'm cancer. We had another one we used Stop in the Name of Love. And we did the whole song like the Supremes.
No.
But it was about not drinking during pregnancy. We would interweave social, educational themes. I would always keep the writing going. I had the kids write autobiographies and we'd share those. When I've done women's workshops for years, I always use poetry and music.
But even though you sound like you kind of regretted you didn't take that route, you did.
Well, that's true. I just didn't take it in more of the traditional, like, I'm just going to be a writer, or I'm going to be a journalist. But I think I landed where I was supposed to. I do.
This is a good one. What was an early experience where you learned that language had power?
I moved to Africa when I was 16. It was French Equatorial Africa, and I didn't speak French. I felt like I needed to learn it very quickly in order to reduce the anxiety I was feeling about living in
Mm.
Africa. I would go to the marketplace with our guide, a helper in our home,
Yeah.
and he would take me to the marketplace with him so I could go and see it. And they'd yell Serpent Blanc. They call me White Snake going through the marketplace. Because I was tall, I was very pale. I
Yeah.
obviously didn't belong there. I remember just language being something that could cut or could heal. I learned it very quickly just by listening and picking up so that I could start to feel less anxious.
So you found it therapeutic.
We talk about disciplining and working with kids in our relationships, our love relationships. It's all around how you deliver a message, how you own that message, what's the tone you take. That's all language, and it's all around interpersonal success or struggle.
What part do you find difficult about writing?
Making the time and valuing the time. Every year I thought I had to go somewhere idle-willed, big bear somewhere else to write. Own your space and find a way to make it happen in your space. Last year, I took off 5 days from seeing clients and just stayed in my space and wrote. It did help to keep doing that, but I think time is the biggest challenge for me because I have a lot of activities in life that pull me away from that.
Don't cook or dust or like that, which seems to be a lot of people's problems.
Yeah, don't do laundry. Yeah, yeah.
We're all the same as broads having to get up and do a load of laundry. What's the biggest challenge you faced as a writer?
I think there's always a little bit of that imposter syndrome issue. I'm
Yeah.
not good enough. What am I doing? Why am I taking the little bit of time I have? We all have files of starts and stops. I channeled it a little more over the last 8 years in my blog on my website. I do regular messages to clients. So I have about two or 300 in my client base, and I send out messages, either something I'm inspired by that I want to speak to kind of through a therapeutic lens, or during COVID, so we were all stuck. So I would do my Dr. Jules messages about how to cope with isolation and fear. I had a Facebook page for a while that was my professional page, but I didn't really like that. So I shifted from that and just focused on my blog.
You really do write quite a bit, though.
I do write a bit. Yeah.
Blog and your website,
Yeah.
you're writing all the content to that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you've been practicing since your composition book.
Yes, that's true.
That's a lot of work. What are you working on?
Now, right now, I realized I missed messaging to my clients in July and I'm way overdue. I want to get that out by August 1st, just a regular message, because the last one I sent was probably in May. I don't like to have too much time where I don't post a new blog or message. So I'm just working on that, which is all around capturing the theme of freedom. But what does it mean to be released from certain ways that we keep ourselves imprisoned? The biggie that I'd love to complete is my kids' book because I've been working on that for so long. Would you like to know what it is?
Yes, I do.
The premise is two elves, and it's interstitial writing. It's two elves that get left behind because they play a game, challenging each other on who's going to fall asleep first. And they both fall asleep, miss their ride back to the North Pole. They go through the seasons of the year with different guides, learning about the earth, coping with disappointment, anger, and frustration. So there's a little bit of a therapeutic weave in it. I think it's kind of fun. I've been working on it since my son was probably 3 and he's 25 now.
It's going to be a lovely accomplishment.
Well, it's in a series. It's like 4 books. There's the opening and winter, spring, summer, fall, and homecoming. So there are 4 or 5 sections to it.
It's a really cool idea. Don't tell the ending, of course. Are you just dying to do it, but you have other things to do?
You know, sometimes it compels me. Other times I struggle with just the feeling of it being an obligation to finish. So I get torn between, am I really invested and passionate about this and can't wait to get back to it? Or is it because it's been so long and there's been so much to it that it's like, finish the darn thing. And so it starts to feel like a little bit more of a obligatory completion
Mm.
versus am I still as invested, which I think happens for writing all the time is, wow, write a poem and I go back to it and go, oh, this was stupid. Why am I even going to spend more time on this one? There's a lot of self-doubt I work with people all the time about self-doubt and less than, and so I have to battle that internal, "No, no, no." Find the joy in it, find the release in it, no matter what happens with it, whether you finish it or not, just keep doing it.
Are you in a writers group where you can discuss your ideas?
Something that pops up on the San Diego Writers Monthly that said they were looking for, I think, in a children's book group. So I need to see if that's still a possibility. It was listed as looking for members. I need to look more closely at it. I think that would create some more accountability for me.
Oh, that's good, but not as an obligation.
No, I don't think I'd look at the group as an obligation. I think I'd see that as a bridge to capturing more momentum. I feel like that happens with writing. I lose some momentum because my work can be consuming sometimes.
Well, do you have time to read? How often do you read?
I read all the time. I'm in a book club that I've been in for 26 years, 27 years. Same group of 11 of us. And we read just constantly. I'm just finishing the new Wally Lamb book, The River is Waiting. It's a heavy duty one. Just before that was The Fountains of Silence. We read Covenant of Water. I read every day.
Do you meet once a month?
Yeah, pretty much once every, sometimes it stretches out. When we were younger, we'd meet at night at somebody's house. Now we meet for brunch at somebody's house, usually on a Sunday. Through the years, we've evolved into great friendships. So we usually end up talking about where do we want to go next. Last year, we went to Nashville and we've done Temecula and wine tasting. We end up talking a little about the book and a lot about our future plans. Over 2 decades, people have retired. Some more of the gals have time to, well, there are 3 of us who are therapists in the group. They are my 2 office mates, and we've been together for years.
Careful not to analyze each other.
Oh, yeah. You have a mimosa and you don't analyze anybody.
I was kind of kidding, but
Yeah. We've lost the gals that were a little more serious. They've, they kind of faded away.
how about your favorite childhood book? Do you remember? Do you have one particular book you liked as a child?
Christine, Where the Sidewalk Ends. I loved The Hobbit, of course. When I got into high schools, I read a lot of the English romantics. I revisited with my son King Bidwell's in the Bathtub. That was a great one. I kind of feel like Tiki Tembo. That was an old one. It was my husband's favorite, and we found his original copies. It became one of my son's favorite.
What did you learn about yourself while working on this project? Or was it just putting all the stories that you've heard as a therapist into a story?
I think that sense of what am I going to do? That kind of desperation. I really wanted to try to capture that. Since I have a love of French, that's one of the spots she ends up in, dealing with this kind of flighty, French theme, thinking the person is going to offer her some wonderful way to feel better. The contrast, there's nothing that's happening that makes her feel better. She's not going to buy anything that's going to make her feel better. And she has the fantasy of what could make her feel better. So it was just kind of digging deep around really wanting to get the idea of trauma. Trauma is shock. And grief, the first aspect of grief is shock. This can't be happening. But to really try to get into the inner world of that for the main character.
She calculated her retaliation kind of quickly, if you ask. After the initial shock, she was like, boom, boom. What are you going to do? We're not giving anything away here. That's what I like about it. There's that speed up and then perhaps a
Right.
downslide. You're burned
Yeah.
at the realization that it happened, whatever it is.
And, the stages of grief, denial, and anger, bargaining, if this and this sadness, it doesn't matter. None of that's going to make a change. And then moving into acceptance. We kind of track that a little bit. I always add on action with acceptance. What are you going to do to keep moving through and digesting acceptance in the midst of working through grief? What's the action step to do that?
Which is what we were discussing when we had another interview. Bad luck is good luck, bad luck. So good luck, bad luck. What are you going to do to get out of it? So it's not just, I got hit by a car, life sucks. It's, well, we'll get your bones fixed.
I mean, it's not where you can speed up the action in grief, but acceptance is paired with what's going to be different. What are you going to now have more domain over? because this has happened to you.
Do you feel more energized or exhausted when you have finished whatever it is you're writing? How does that work?
I think for the most part, I usually feel energized. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a night owl. I'm not writing at 8 or 9 in the morning. I'm writing at 9 and 10 at night.
Wow.
But I usually feel a sense of completion. I still found my voice. I still put it out there. When that title came up, I'm like, oh my goodness. I just thought it was meant to be. I'm so grateful that was selected. It worked out. And I'd already had it in my file written,
That's
but not exactly cleaned up.
do you have any process with selecting the names of your characters?
No. Well, I shouldn't say that because in the kids' book, all the characters' names have meaning. So,
Mhm.
yes, but in this particular one, no, because we don't really learn too much about the characters. We have one name in there, maybe. So sometimes I go through the file of who I know, but for the most part, I'd like it to mean something. In the kids' book, one of the kids' names look like a regular name, but in a foreign language, it means something present or gift.
Oh,
So,
I bet you elves, do they have names?
yeah, both of them have names that are interpretive with either a spin on a foreign language or a meaning in a background. So I like to go into Celtic interpretation of words and names, and of course, French.
So you speak French and English.
Yeah.
Julie, what is the process that you have to get your book to publication?
The most tangible was the Love Able, the poetry kind of anthology that actually went from journals with poetry in them to then typing them all up. And the way I did it is I can say her first name. It's Megan. And I call her Megan, my muse, is because she came to me through a very dear friend. She is the best friend of that dear friend. And she has ended up being just such a fabulous support partner, editor. She is technically a whiz. She posts all my items on my website. When
Oh,
I to change something, she manages the blog and my website. So she is a personal assistant, editor, and cheerleader. It has been the most useful use of resources and time to have her. She is lovely and wonderful, and I could never have done this. She investigated all of the Amazon self publishing path. She was able to pull it together to get the rough draft. The artwork on the book is my sister. My sister's an artist and she did the artwork, but it was Megan who helped align it and get it all together. They say it takes a village or we cannot walk alone. And I think that is where I turn next to, if I mention the kids' book or in my next poetry book, it will be Megan that will be helping me with that.
and the book is The Love Able, A Poetic Journey.
She was really instrumental, along with some other friends that I had edit the poems. So I did have 3 other friends from my book club that I gave bounded copies of it and had them edit. And then I sent those to Megan also. So she was able to read everybody's edits for each poem.
Is this what does she have the word muse on her CV?
No, I named her that. But
I'm just kidding, but how does she do this? It's
yeah,
so interesting.
she helps her very dear friend in real estate. So what Megan helps her with is very different writing work and organizational efforts. She's just this lovely spirit of energy and support and prompting. What about this? What about that? So it's wonderful. Well, and it's been a resource since I am working and I have some resources to dedicate towards my creative effort. I'm able to put some of those resources towards having someone like that to help.
Well, that's a good way to end it. So,
Yeah.
Julie Anne Lyle, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Big congratulations on getting in the anthology.
I look forward to the next newsletter. You've inspired me now that I've met you. I want to show up at a gathering so I can see you in person. Yeah,
Great.
that'd be
Okay.
great.
Look forward to it. I look forward to meeting.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.